I've been at some of the CMC meetings, and I've seen the Hennepin County Commissioners and City Council and the Mayor and all those local politicians, and I've kind of seen what they've done or haven't done, and I'm less informed about what goes on at the State House. The Governor did not include any funding to the light rail and bonding, and I feel that this is a statewide asset, and it's more properly, at least the capital costs, included in some sort of bonding. Thanks.
Thanks for starting off with a non-controversial question. Southwest LRT, we've carried the funding at the state over the years. I've carried the bonding legislation to fund it ever since I've been in the legislature. And some years we've been more successful, some years we've been less in getting funding to help with the planning and everything. There's no magic that says it has to be funded through the bonding bill. And there's no magic that says it has to be funded through the state legislature. In terms of the qualifying for the federal matching funds, we just need to have a state match come from somewhere. So the biggest problem right now with the bonding bill is that it requires a supermajority of the legislature to pass and to become law. And that means there need to be at least a handful of Republican votes as well as all of the Democratic votes in the legislature in order to pass. And I think the political reality is right now, probably in the Senate, I think certainly in the House, is that there's going to be great difficulty getting sufficient Republican votes for a light rail transit bonding component to the bonding bill. That's what held it up last time we tried to get Southwest in the bonding bill.
Now the Met Council says that it has a funding mechanism where it could provide the state match without having to go to the bonding bill.
The funding has really been the only formal role that us in the legislature as a whole, plays in the decision-making process for the routing of Southwest LRT and the freight rail that is a corollary to it. Those formal decisions have been in the hands of the county board and the Hennepin County Rail Authority, and now officially on the Met Council's agenda. So the role that we're able to play is more behind the scenes now, and to try to shape the political dimensions and very importantly, just the objective analysis of the alternatives. For much of the time, we really wanted to focus on making sure that there was a good, honest evaluation of the alternatives, of the mitigation options.
The three of us have sent a letter and emphasized in private meetings that if a reroute creates a worse safety profile in St. Louis Park, that we would urge the City Council to deny municipal consent, and we would work to stop that line from going forward. And that standard, based on proximity to homes, degree of curvature of the rail and grade change, and the number of at-grade crossings are the criteria developed by Safety in the Parks. And so we've worked with them. And we don't want to say no reroute ever, but we want to say no reroute that's going to make St. Louis Park less safe, that's going to make St. Louis Park more divided, and is going to have a major community impact. Right now, sitting here, I don't really know how such a reroute could be constructed, but I just don't see that being likely. And so that's why we have been pushing for a co-location option in Minneapolis that works. I think that will be something that is front and center in this project for the next several months. Recently, one of the boards, the County Transit Improvement Board, which has the money to keep this operation going, has said that unless a route is chosen by June 1, they're going to move all the funding away from Southwest Corridor and put it into the Botno line, which essentially would have the effect of shutting down this project for now and maybe permanently. The TC&W Railroad, which sort of has a veto power over the reroute, has said that this reroute proposed by the consultant is not viable for them. The question of bonding and mass transit, I completely agree with you. If we're building projects all over the state, and my constituents and all of you are paying for it, that there should be some opportunity to have our projects included as well. It may not end up making it, but I think I'm going to be pushing for it, and I suspect we all will be trying to push to get that included in the capital investment bill. So my hope is, at the end of the day, we end up with a Southwest Corridor project that does not put new freight trains through St. Louis Park, and that gets funded as a statewide asset that it is. That's to me the outcome we should be looking at.
Generally speaking, the suburbs don't ask for much in these bonding bills. We really don't. We're not there every year demanding and asking for things. And it's not, I think it is very fair for us to put down a marker as to this kind of project and say, you know what, for years and years and years, we vote for those bonding bills, even though there's not much in it for our constituents, directly that is, things that are built out here. And I think it's very reasonable that we start being insistent on things that really benefit the whole region and certainly indirectly the whole state. So Ryan and Ron and I will be, I anticipate, introducing a bill to make sure that at least some of the bonding bill goes to this. The governor felt he couldn't put Southwest Corridor in there. I don't have much doubt that if he thought that he could get the votes, he would put it in there. He's been a supporter. He's invested a tremendous amount of his personal time, even when he's ailing from surgery, attending to the Southwest Corridor problem. As Ryan and Ron said, we meet with him about every 2 weeks. There's a group of stakeholders, including all three of us, who meet with him every 2 weeks. And I've not heard of a problem of public policy that a governor has devoted this much time to, that seems on its face to just affect one sort of region of the metro area. But he sees this, I think, as a regional priority, and he's really put a lot of his personal time into it, trying to mediate this dispute, and I really appreciate that. I think Ryan is right, too. I just want to put an exclamation point on it. We really do think safety comes first, and it appears to us, at least, that this latest plan, this sort of reroute that was proposed by Trans-System as a consultant, does not meet the test. Does not meet the test that Ryan just enunciated and that we put in writing in our pretty strongly worded letter to the Met Council. It's got to meet a safety test. That really has to come first, and we're not seeing it right now.
Is there a way that the state can tell the railroads that if you're going to ship oil, you will ship it in safe containers or safer containers than what you have now? I mean, I look at over on Virginia and just south of Cedar Lake Road, the train overpass that goes over that little cement one, that thing is falling apart. I have some grave concerns as to how the railroad transfers their trains.
So as to oil on the railroads, if there's an industry that is more heavily regulated by the federal government than the railroad industry, I don't know what it is. But they've done a pretty good job of crowding out most state regulation relating to railroads. So I'm not aware that the state has any specific authority to mandate certain kinds or qualities of oil tankers that are on the trains. I think that's all a federal regulation. I will tell you that I have asked the question. It's come up in conversations. And as far as I'm aware, the trains that go through St. Louis Park are not carrying the crude oil, the Bakken oil from North Dakota, that is more flammable than most other forms of material that's going in those tanker cars. Ethanol, fortunately, is not quite as explosive. So there's a lot of ethanol that goes through St. Louis Park. But it seems, at least for now, that the Bakken crude is taking different routes through the metro area than through St. Louis Park.
Senator Dibble and Representative Hornstein, who are the chairs of the House and Senate Transportation Committees, are looking into this issue. And I don't know what exactly they have in mind, but I also know that members of Congress like Tim Walz are looking at it at a federal level. So this is certainly an issue that is getting the attention of elected officials and are looking at what we can do to make sure that we're safe as that oil is transported.
The courts really interpret this as, mostly when it comes to railroad regulation, as a federal government responsibility. In fact, I remember a few years ago, I don't know if you guys remember this, one of our colleagues from up north had a bill that was passed that simply said when a railroad goes within a certain proximity of a school, it had to slow down to a certain speed. I can't remember what the speed was or the proximity, but the idea was, and he actually had a videotape that he had made, and they showed the legislative committees of a train just whipping by really close to an elementary school playground in his district. So we passed it, but a federal court struck it down and said that the state government has no authority to make this kind of regulation, that it's solely federal. So I think people are a little gun shy at the legislature about railroad legislation like that.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by lefty volunteers, mostly Democrats, for the entire metro region. The presentation of guests and opinions on this program does not indicate endorsement by the state DFL party or DFL Senate District 48.